Dear Diarrhea, diary full of shit. Just play along, me, myself, and I, no one else. Yo, I'm so legit. I don't have anything to say, so I figured I'd say some shit. I believe that may be AI. Maybe. Who knows? It's hard telling. I mean, I guess that could happen. A wild animal in a man made environment full of man and woman. A lot of noise and echo and, you know, laughter and this, that, and the other. And also the physical requirement of carrying, what is that, like a 4x6 or some shit like that, out the door, with your neck muscles and your, jaw, uh, open, how how wide can a beaver open its jaw, and it's, AI, they kind of got it figured out as far as things, not looking so like shiny and crisp and clean, as well as the occasional fuck up, where all of a sudden they have six fingers or their leg is backwards. They're getting that worked out, but there's still kind of that paint by numbers, step one, step two, step three, as far as how people respond to shit. Because people, perceive the world in different ways. And if they should so choose to respond, verbally to something they see and or hear, it's going to be, you're going to get, 10 different variations if you've got 10 different people in a room. But the way I've noticed that AI seems to do things is it's all pretty much just monotone, Look, it's a beaver. It's got a piece of wood in its mouth. It's got a big piece of wood. He's heading towards the door, and it's all kind of no character, no flavor, to it quite yet. The one chick in the background, I don't even know what she said. Something like, go little baby or something like that. It's like, what the fuck, just okay, But not stating the blatantly obvious. I think this might be AI. And like I said, we're here, we've entered that realm. We're not quite in full swing yet. But I do believe that most people will recognize, that most people aren't going to be like, let me rephrase that. The majority is not going to be, whoa, dude, did you see what, fucking, is happening, man? It's the end of the world. There's an asteroid headed right towards us. Most people are going to question shit. And if it seems almost legit, they're going to, kind of, their stance on that is going to be, is this legit? Because it'd be cool if it was, or this is kind of a big deal if it's legit. But, we do live in a world of bullshit now, so is it? I think that's where the majority of people are going to fall, which is a good thing. But, kind of as a side note, like I said, we've entered the world of bullshit. Everything's a joke, everything's a meme. Not only that, but and I've said this before, everything's an inside joke. So somebody like me who stumbles across something on YouTube, it's like, what the fuck are you even talking about? This appears to be something that should be clearly obvious and ironic to me, but I have no fucking clue what you're talking about. And that's going to be a problem, is everything's going to be a fucking inside joke. Because everybody spends a lot of time on the internet, and then you get some schmuck like me who doesn't spend a lot of time on the internet, or at least on the internet following, the hip, trendy shit. I don't know what the latest meme is, but that's kind of, I think, where, unfortunately, it's going to go. Everybody's on the plus side, everybody's going to realize that this is probably bullshit. I guess if it's not, we have to figure out a way to know if it isn't bullshit. And then as a side, sort of kick in the ass, negative is, everything's just going to be an inside fucking joke, and everything will be a joke. So, I guess that's where we're at. It is awfully cute, though. I gotta admit, but that's not healthy. I heard that somewhere a long time ago. If you think like a clown all the time, eventually you will become a clown. But the thing is, people won't know that they're clowns because everybody has like an ego and they need to like self protect, right? So, like I said, everything's just going to be this hip, trendy inside joke. But the end result is still going to be you're a fucking clown who takes nothing serious. Doesn't matter whether you think of yourself as a fucking clown who takes nothing serious, or most likely somebody who thinks you're hip and trendy and has an IQ of 107, who is impervious to the bullshit, but it turns out you're just gobbling that shit up spoon after spoon, left and right hand. So, yeah. And there's people out there, who as individuals, even a hive mind, multiple people, might not be able to figure that out because a bee is a bee is a bee. Even if you got 100 of them, they still think like bees. But they'll have, AI, which is basically algorithms on crack or speed or whatever, following these trends, and they will be able to come up with models that will figure shit out, and they will be able to mold the way that society thinks. Okay, I don't think we're there yet, but I think that's going to be the next step within the next 5 to 10 years, especially 10 years, probably 5. And it might not be like a full blown, something out of a fucking movie, in 5 years, but in 10 years it sure as hell will be, But you know what? I take that back. People tend to kind of figure things out. Hey, wait a minute, I've been duped. You've just been fucking me over the whole time. But people will always have emotions. The more complex something is, the more prone it is to failure. So that, humans are very complex. You like, art, you like cuisine, you like love, you like family. There's a flip side to that. There's a flip side to everything, and just the way human beings think is really, really up there, as far as the flip side. But there's a backswing, so, but so I think generally there's some, human resilience that will be able to withstand it. Because I like to talk shit about people. I don't particularly like my fellow man, but I live beside myself. I don't, really let my personal emotions get in the way of things. Overall, people do tend to be generally good, normal, and sane, but there's so many people out there who have fucking miswires and are just fucking stupid bitch pieces of shit. Like I use this as an example, driving, right? And driving is kind of an extension of not necessarily your character, but your operating system of how you perceive the world. So the example I like to use, and I've fabricated this myself, I didn't hear this anywhere, is you're going to do your job the same way that you drove to your job. So if things start kind of get, piled up and you're kind of having to play catch up a little bit, you're going to deal with that the same way that you, dealt with the person who was, riding your ass on the way to work, and or the person who was driving, 5 miles over the speed limit in the left lane, and you were wanting to do 20 miles over the speed limit in the left lane, or 10, and blah, 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 blah. How you drive is kind of a hack or a cheat in my opinion, based on empirical evidence of how you deal with the world. It's not necessarily how you greet your kids when you get home and how you prepare an anniversary date for your wife, but it is how you deal with the fucking day to day ins and out of just fucking existing and carving out, an existence. Um, so I don't think humanity has the, I can't find the right word. I think if we're entering a world of bullshit, it's gonna be just that, a world of bullshit. I don't think we have the anchoring, the roots as a whole. At least human beings in America. Because I mean, in other countries, man, it's a whole different ball game. It's like you talk about taking shit for granted. You know what I mean? Second world, third world countries. Whoo, Um, but like I said, human beings have been the dominant, species on this earth for a minute or two. And, it hasn't been that long ago that people were like plumb fucking insane, like with witch hunts and shit. It's like, well, if the feather floats and the rock sinks, then she's a witch. You know what I mean? It wasn't that long ago that is what we were dealing with. So you need to keep that in mind when you're talking about information age and algorithms and AI, recognizing you personally and giving you a personalized experience based on what you search, which could be, good or bad. You know, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people out there who just recognize, it's like, well, take everything with a grain of salt, know what you don't know, which is, if you don't understand that phrase, then that means you're a low caliber person. Basically, that just means you're encountering something that is new to you. You haven't really figured everything out yet. You're a theorist at that point, but you haven't put things into practice. That's basically what know what you don't know means. But there's other people who would just disregard that as, well, that's stupid, And there's just so many variations of human mentality. And I know it sounds weird when I say that, like the male of the human species, this, that, and the other. But that's just because I'm trying to kind of boil it down to its basic, elements, and that's what it is at the end of the day, it's just what it is. And like I said, there's a difference between the soul and the brain. Unfortunately, the brain is the circuit board that you have to get through, and the brain can be miswired. The soul, the character, the spirit, whatever you want to call it, might be not so fucking hopeless, but the brain of this individual is fucking hopeless. So we're entering a time of absolute fucking horse shit. And it's still in its beginning phases. It's only going to get worse. And like I said, there's going to be, as that goes, there's kind of going to be people who go this direction, and there's going to be people who go that direction. So the people who go this direction are going to kind of realize, yeah, fuck it, is that real? Is it? I don't know. We live in a world of horse shit these days. But there's also going to be an equal, or at least kind of on the equivalent of equal, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, of people, who kind of take that as is. But as I said, I think generally most people are going to realize everything's bullshit. But that has a bad side to it. It's like, well, at least they recognize it, right? But then nobody gives a shit, you know? And a society full of people who don't give a shit is not necessarily a good thing. It's good that they recognize that things are bullshit, but it's the flip side of that is, just nobody cares. Nobody takes anything serious. So, anyway, Have a good day with your ass now. This was supposed to be just a kind of cute little 2-minute video. Well, I'd have to let it go 4 minutes, so Fashion's Tube, didn't post it as a short, but, it turned into a 15-minute, somewhat of a rant. Where does this actually lead?